on the female reproductive structures on the mannequin, here is our list. Goes all the way down to here. That's where it stops. This is a good diagram. I'm going to start out with, I gave you this. I call these the video document. I'm trying to keep the terminology short, but it's kind of hard to get long. But so starting out, this is give you the 10-cent tour. So if you want to orient yourself, here's the uterus. This is the bladder. You can see the urethra. Remember, the female urethra is much shorter than the male urethra. So up here, it looks like it's got the structure with the bumps on it. That's actually the ovary. The little finger-like projections are the fimbriae, and then this is a fallopian tube. And this is the uterus. The opening to the uterus is right in here. It's called the cervix. And then on each side, you have these little creases that are called the fornices or the fornix. This is the vagina. All of this is called the external genitalia. And where we are, if you go down here, it has labia majora, labia minora, and then the clitoris. Here's the clitoris. Actually, it's very similar to the tissue that's found in the penis. It actually has a hood. It has erectile tissue, and then these outer layers here, the outside layers, the labia majora, and this inner fold, and it looks a little different, is the labia minora. So all that is called the external genitalia. And I believe I touched on all the major areas. I haven't showed you these yet. I showed you the fallopian tube. The infundibulum is the beginning of the uterine tube. So where the little fimbriae are, right past that, like right here, it's a little bit bigger area. That's called the infundibulum. Round ligament, broad ligament, I'll have to show you that in a minute. Uterus, showed you that's right here. Cervix is the opening into the uterus. The fornix are the creases on each side. And then I showed you the external genitalia. All right, going on to our next photo. So here is one that sort of just everything's been taken out. So here's an ovary. See the bumps. See the fimbriae. And then see how this area is a little bit broader opening. That's the infundibulum. And then that whole tube coming down would represent the uterine tube. Now this big flap here is actually called the broad ligament. See, it goes around that area that it comes up, and it's got this little series of vessels. But this whole area right there, this whole thing is called the broad ligament. And I'll show you the round ligament and the ovarian ligament here in a second. The round ligament is actually down here. It supports the uterus. So here's the uterus. See, the opening is called the cervix. On each side is the fornix, and then that's the vagina. And we'll get to that in a second. So on our models, now this one's actually pretty good as far as, see the yellow there? That's an ovary. You can see the little extensions. Ooh, look like little fingers here. That's the fimbriae. Where that number is would represent where the infundibulum is, and then the fallopian tube comes down like that. Now here's this would actually be the bladder, and then this area here is where the uterus is. There's the vagina, and then you have the external genitalia, labia majora, labia minora. On the next one, you can see, you can cross-section this a little bit better. So number 6 would represent the clitoris. Here's the labia minora. Number 4 would be the labia majora. Here's the vagina. On each side is the fornix. All of this is the uterus. This would be the fallopian tube. This is the infundibulum, and then here are the fimbriae. And then the yellow here would be the ovary. Now, that structure coming down this way is the round ligament. See, it actually comes up and supports the uterus. The ovarian ligament is on the other side of this, and I can show you here in a second. But there's the vagina, that tube, and the external genitalia. All right, this particular view, you can actually see 3 things. You can see the uterus right there. Now, that structure right there is the ovarian ligament. That comes around this way would be the fallopian tube. And then this structure coming down here is called the round ligament. So it's the one that's right there. You can see it. So on that view, you can actually see it pretty well. And you can't in this picture, but this whole big flap of tissue is called the broad ligament, which was actually in our, this one. That's what that whole thing, it holds everything up. Think of broad like being like a broad area, very supportive. So while I had this up, these are called the mammary glands. Mammary glands. I can't speak. Mammary glands. Not on your list, but those are called lactiferous ducts, and they lead to the opening, which is called the nipple, the external opening. After childbirth, there's a hormone called prolactin that causes these glands to produce milk. And then oxytocin, which is another hormone, actually causes that milk to be ejected. The nipple will be the opening of the outside. The areola is the area around, if I could click on the correct picture, the area around the nipple is called the areola. Nipple's the opening to the outside, and these are mammary glands. All right, now I can talk. Mammary glands are actually found, it's called the subcutaneous layer of underneath the skin. All right, we did this one. There are a couple of more. This one I showed you that particular view. This is just a different picture. This one, if you really it's kind of hard to see a lot of things, but you can kind of see here's the fimbriae, there's an ovary, there's a fallopian tube, there's the round ligament. Here would be the bladder. Here is the uterus. Now, this one also has, yeah, you can see, you can take the top off, but there's the uterus. Here's the vagina. You can see the labia minora, the labia majora. You can barely see the clitoris right there. The round ligament, the uterine tube, the vagina, the fornix on each side. Little different picture. Uterus, the bladder. This one you can actually see the bumps. You can actually see the ovary very well, and then that's supposed to be the fallopian tube. And the same external genitalia. And this is an actual model. You can see the areola, you can see the nipple there, and then, yeah, these areas with the ducts, the black areas, the ducts, but those are the mammary glands. So all that, the milk-producing glands. All right, well, this is an ovary. Just a good picture, not on your list, but there's a, looks like a corpus luteum. There's a follicle releasing an egg, but that's a cross-section of an ovary. All right, that's all the female reproductive mannequin structures.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.